Today, I want to focus on the topic of conformity and how it fits with inner child healing. I want to bring in the idea that Don Miguel Ruiz, author of The Four Agreements, talked about in his introduction. He talks about the dream of the planet. And by this, he means that all of us are caught up in the conditioning that we on earth are subjected to when we take on human form. The dream of the planet, the conditioning that we take on, are all the ways that we're socialized so that societies, groups of people can more or less get along so there's not constant conflict. So socialization and conformity has its benefits for sure. But when you become completely subsumed by your conditioning and live out of the things that were imprinted on you, you're kind of like a robot. You get imprinted, be a Japanese American, be someone in Europe, a French person, or an African person, or an Australian. Each of these places have their societal rules. And if you live in a different culture, you realize that they behave differently. And even in terms of what they have for breakfast or how they play. These are the conditions that we don't think about. We grow up and just accept that that's the way things are. Then you take that idea with the inner child wounds, where because of wounds, the child is looking for approval, acceptance, not to be rejected, to become important enough so that people would pay attention rather than being ignored and rejected, which was the pain experienced in childhood. So with this aim to seek approval, naturally, the inner child is going to be taking account how in a classroom or in a workplace they can get along, people please, be non-confrontive, so they're not bringing negative attention to themselves, because that's something the child part doesn't want. But because the child part's that way, and because the conditioning, the rules of the workplace don't allow that, you're stuck in a cage. You have limited options. Should you have a creative mind that can come up with solutions to issues at work, but you have the fear of rejection, you never speak up. If the rules of that workplace doesn't give you space because they don't honor individual contribution, no matter what your role is, then you have the fear of speaking up. So this is how conformity and inner child wounds work together to limit you. And the whole point of inner child healing is liberation, where you can get to knowing your wisdom, seeing how you can express your truth. Dissolve the wall around your heart, built to protect your heart from further hurt, so that you have access to your wisdom to your intuition so that you can make your contribution in this world to serve others. One way of finding how you conform is noticing if what you're doing comes from a should. I was communicating with a client of mine whose house is going to be sold officially. The transfer, all the documents is going to be concluded tomorrow. She's been not well for a long time dealing with her trauma. On top of that, she has a cold. So, and her cats are needing a lot of attention and vet care. In terms of what's happening in her home and her own self-care, there is much to do. However, she felt that she needed to leave. She couldn't leave a dirty house to the new owner. So I said, "What do you mean by dirty?" She said, "Well, when the people cleaned the windows, they tracked in some dirt. And I need to clean that up and I need to mop the floors." And I said, "Do you really need to do that? What's the minimum you can do so you could take care of yourself?" She got it. She was following her perfectionism. She needed to leave the house perfectly. She should have the house sparkling clean. So she became aware of her should and her perfectionism and her need to care for herself. So she could say, "I can leave it." So if I had not made her aware of her shoulds and her perfectionism, she would be right now cleaning up, exhausted and sick, the house that she felt should be left perfectly clean. This is an example of how this client dealt with the shoulds. For me, my story is that I took the idea, the imperative that I needed to be good. That was my guideline as I grew up. And I chose the path of conformity, choosing traditional paths to secure a position in society. Eventually, I got my PhD in clinical psychology. But one step before you earn a PhD is to conduct research that had to be original. As I spent days trying to come up with a topic, I realized that because I never had my own opinion, whether with friends or family, in school, anywhere, I didn't have any original ideas. I just absorbed what I was taught, what people talked about. I didn't come up with any differing opinion or anything original. So there, I was stuck. But that realization couldn't be corrected right away. And I managed to turn what I had been doing in research to something that I could propose and conclude and finish my PhD. From that point on, to finding all the cages that got me into that situation took a long time. And the inner child work that I began 10 years ago is crucial in my capacity to sit before you, confident that I will make sense, confident that I can bring these two ideas sufficiently clearly to you to make you more aware of the restriction on your freedom. I feel aligned with my intuition and my spirit so that I can be confident and speaking to you my truth as I see it, hoping that as I do, a light of awareness will shine upon the areas that you're ready for to see how conformity cages you. So let me know what you got from this, and hopefully, you'll use this as motivation and inspiration to conduct your own research and awareness of what keeps you caged. I have one more thing that I can say in terms of what I learned in my Japanese and growing up in Hawaii. And that is, you never arrive at a guest's home without a gift in hand. So for a long time, I, excuse me, showed up with a gift. And now that I see that that is something coming from a should, I ask myself, do I want to bring one? Do I have time to do that? Will it be okay? So I consciously make the choice of whether I have a gift in hand, and if I do, what it is. So this is a simple way in which I brought consciousness to my automatic behavior. And that is the point of healing your inner child, to end the process of reacting and performing out of survival mode. So please comment below to let me know what you got from this and whether you have any questions. And I'll look forward to your seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me.